Our next speaker is an award-winning technologist, innovator, and hacker who believes that the world can be made a better and a safer place through technology. Please welcome our next speaker up to the platform, Francois on the Merwe.
I feel you deep in me.
Hello, everyone. Sure. What a pleasure to see all your faces here in front of me today. My name is Francois van der Merwe, and I represent an organization called Port 443. We're a cybersecurity automation company that helps organizations build responsive and resilient cybersecurity solutions. Today, I'm going to talk with you about how, unlike humans, AI can drink from fire hoses. You see, it started a few years back, maybe 5 or 6 years back, on that faithful Wednesday morning at 3 a.m. was to giving us the decryption keys. You see, this was back at a time when Bitcoin was around about $10,000 per coin. And so the reality is that it was a tough situation. But at the end of it, we all got into our cars and we said, this will never, ever happen again. And I could just not help but think, how could this have been avoided? How could we have stopped this from happening before we actually had to spend this long week? You see, these criminals used as a service offering, just as many of us like. They used ransomware as a service. And this tool allows them to basically automate the entire process of attacking a business, from initial access to persistence, all the way through to installing the ransomware. And yes, it even gave them cue cards on how to make demands. It's hilarious. The reality is that this is happening, and ransomware as a service, botnet as a service, denial of service as a service, yes, that exists, is actually a thing, and people are using it. You see, cybersecurity has changed from this world where a 7-year-old hacker could whistle the right tones into an AT&T handset or the public telephone and get free long-distance calls. It's moved from there to a world where there's state-sponsored actors and organized crime that's using these tools. You see, gone are the days of cowboys and crooks. And it's like that movie, Wild Wild West, where the criminals manage to get this giant robotic spider that crawls across the desert. And the poor cowboy needs to respond to this. And the only thing that he can do is adapt or die. You see, it's no surprise that the FBI's Internet Crime Complaints Center reported over 2,084 high-profile ransomware attacks in the last 6 months of 2021. And the Tech Republic has published a report on reporting an all-time high on denial of service attacks in Q1 of 2022. Now, a lot of us would think, yes, that's just another statistic post-COVID. But the reality is one of the contributing factors to that is that as the war in Ukraine is being fought on a physical realm, so that same war is being fought in a digital realm, even more aggressively than any one of us can think. So you're a business leader, a founder, a CEO, CIO, CTO, or someone interested in protecting your business. How do you use automation and machine learning to defend against things like ransomware? Well, you start with a house, of course. You see, a South African house has got walls, it's got a security gate, it's got electric fences, it's got sensors, pressure sensors, all sorts of sensors, and hopefully these are all connected to a private security company that's got a control room. And the control room can receive these events, do a little bit of reconnaissance, correlate it with other houses' alarm systems, and then most importantly, send some armed response when things really go wrong and you need help. Cybersecurity systems are a lot similar in a lot of cases. One of the things that's very important to notice is that you've got active, you've got passive cybersecurity solutions. Active meaning they're responsive. They're able to detect malware on a phone, and then someone receives an event and someone does something about it. Passive cybersecurity controls would be things like firewalls, blocking IP addresses, or whitelisting certain things, or blacklisting certain IP addresses from countries we don't necessarily want traffic to come from. Similarly, our current cybersecurity architecture has got a detection capability. You've got honeypots, firewalls, antivirus, email security, data leakage prevention. All of these fancy words are actually sensors that's producing events. And these events are being collected in a central place. They're then analyzed. And finally, we need to respond to them. And that's the most important bit. If you don't respond, all of that work before that is pretty much for naught. So, as a show of hands, who here is familiar with a cybersecurity operations center? Show of hands. Got 2 hands over there, a few hands here or there. So, a cybersecurity operations center is where all of this information goes to. And it's a set of people, usually about 8 all the way to 20, depending on how big your organization is. And these people's sole purpose in life is to receive and collect these events, analyze them, and then most importantly, respond. But you see, all of these events coming in is a real big challenge. There's a lot of events coming in. And so people will write rules in this security operations center that says, if this alarm gets triggered and this alarm gets triggered, then we know it's a case that someone needs to deal with. The fact of the matter is, this environment is changing so quickly, and there's so many new attacks and new systems that gets integrated that it becomes a proper problem just writing the rules, never mind responding to it. So they use a tool, it's called a SIEM, or a Security Information and Event Management Platform. And this is a tool like any other that enables them to write these rules, aggregate the data, create dashboards, and make life a little bit easier in a SOC. Because you see, it's a 24/7 operations center. The thing is, cybersecurity is no longer an exclusive policing problem. Cybersecurity has become a data problem as well. The great thing about that is that we can borrow from a already well-oiled machine in certain cases and use some of those tools to our advantage, right? And so there's one tool we can do that with, and that's called machine learning or AI. You see, the future state look very similar. You've got your detection, your collection, with that fire hose of events just streaming out. People need to write rules to catch all of the different anomalies and then analyze and respond to them. You see, ask any data scientist over here. There's one thing that ML models really, really like, and that is mountains of data. And so that's exactly where we'll slot it in the first place, is we'll say, well, that's where we will implement it. But the challenge is as I click this button, that machine learning tag showed up there. The reality is, implementing a machine learning solution like that in production, in a live environment, is not as easy as some guy at a fintech conference saying AI and machine learning, and tomorrow it's implemented. It takes effort and it takes work. And so I think a lot of people emphasize the ease of implementation, but I think it's necessary to mention that it is a challenge. But once you've implemented, oh boy, how nice is it? The fact of the matter is you're able to gift that security operations center an additional 10 people that can write rules, that can analyze and correlate data in a multidimensional way that us human brains just struggle to do. And so that means that there's really a lot of value in doing that. Now, the fact of the matter is that you've got all 3 of these steps, but you'll see that the last step is kind of empty. We don't really have a way to respond easily. We've got this great CCTV system that can keep an eye on the lime green Lamborghini that's standing in your driveway. But if you're unable to respond, you'll sit there watching the CCTV monitor and see how the bad guy gets into your Lamborghini and drives away, and you can get to wave goodbye to him and your precious car. You see, this is where automation becomes something that's useful. You can use both the information that comes out of the SIM and the collection stage, as well as the machine learning models, to really enable your capability to respond. There's a bad login on this server. We block that IP address. But not only that, we block it across the whole environment on all the firewalls in mere seconds. There's malware detected on a cell phone. All of a sudden we say, whoa, okay, we're going to automatically contain that user. We're going to remove their access from those key platforms that we deem sensitive for the time being, until we've managed to contain that threat. And then, and only then when it's safe, we'll give them back their access. The technology that can be used there is called a SOAR, or Security Orchestration, Automation, and Remediation Engine. It's a very new technology. It's about 3 years old. But it's incredibly powerful, and it is incredibly capable to improve your security operations center's capability to respond to cybersecurity threats. So in summary, cybersecurity is now a machine versus machine world. It has become a data problem more than just a pure policing problem. And finally, manual responses just can't keep pace anymore. You need a quicker response. I thank you. Questions?
Thanks, Francois. That was an awesome presentation. You and I had a chat during lunch, and it's something that I just want to put out there for the audience here. And it speaks to the quicker response. So from my own personal experience with my customers, a big blocker in terms of automation is your integration. So you and I chatted, you know, what I'm seeing across the board is you've got a point solution for access control, right? Then you've got a point solution for masking, and a point solution for this, and a point solution for that. And then what happens is you've just got this like influx of solutions that don't speak to each other at an enterprise level, and you've already spent so much money on that. And for me, the way forward is, like you said, it's the SOAR. It's a platform solution that helps you remediate and respond to all of those things. But you, from your personal experience, are you picking up on the same issues at enterprise level, that these solutions just don't speak to each other and there's a silo? There's a silo effect being perpetuated from a security perspective.
Definitely can echo that. The cybersecurity tech stack is incredibly crowded. And one of the reasons for that is because as new threats arise, so the industry responds and actually develop a bespoke product just to solve that problem. So now you're sitting with a tech stack where, I was joking, you kind of have a column on your slide, but the icons are so small because there's just so many, right? And the reality is that one of the challenges there is that you don't have that unified capability. These systems don't talk to each other. And that makes it incredibly difficult for you to have a cohesive, responsive cybersecurity defense capability. And so by leveraging both the capabilities of AI and ML, along with that collected automation capability, you're able to respond. And that capability enables you to natively integrate to each of those platforms, including some of your key business platforms, and interact with them in the language that they understand. And so that, I think, is where the power of that particular platform is made apparent. One of the things that I think is also valuable to mention here is that a lot of the implementation friction of that is you literally have to have developers and teams of people that go in and develop those integrations. The great thing is that if you do what we do, we sell it as a service. an affordable service, not to mention. And we've already built all of those integrations, and we're reusing them. And so it makes it incredibly easy for us to deploy solutions for our clients. Awesome. Any other questions?
Thanks, Francois. So I'm just wondering, how do we now, as an organization, for example, trust you to protect us and give you access to our holy grail, as it were? How do you get us to kind of trust you and give you the key?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Cybersecurity is a trust game, right? And the fact is that supply chain exploitation is a very real attack vector. And so one of the reasons why we operate in the way we do, where we only insist on least privilege access, and we make sure that we combine both the advantages of having a specific automation or capability developed inside a client environment, we also combine that with risk assessment to make sure that we don't put our clients at risk. And in some cases, we had to say no. We had to say, unfortunately, this is going to put you at risk. And so, unfortunately, that's something that we shouldn't do. Let's rather focus on something that's going to have a positive impact on your business, but has a lower potential impact if the world were to end, right? Awesome. Any other questions? So with that, I thank you. It's been a pleasure speaking with you today.